The shuttle shook as it passed through the docking clamps. Una Park pressed her face against the small window and watched Station Helix 9 grow larger. It was massive. Rings within rings, spinning slowly in the darkness of space. Lights blinked across its surface, like a city floating in nothing. She had dreamed of this moment for 3 years. Earth had finally been accepted into the Galactic Union, and she was one of 12 humans chosen to train at the Integration Academy. Her heart beat fast, but she kept her breathing steady. She had learned long ago that excitement and fear felt almost the same in her body. The shuttle landed with a soft thump. The doors opened, and Una stepped onto the metal floor of the docking bay. The air smelled different here. Clean, but strange. Recycled 1,000 times through filters she could not imagine. Other species moved around her. Some walked on 2 legs like humans. Others floated, crawled, or moved in ways that made her brain itch. She had studied images during the journey, but seeing them in person was different. A tall creature with 6 arms passed by, its pale skin almost see-through. It glanced at her with eyes that had no pupils, then looked away without interest. Una followed the signs toward the registration hall. The corridor was wide enough for species of all sizes. She passed a group of small furry beings who chattered in clicks and whistles. Behind them walked something that looked like a moving tree, its branches swaying with each step. At the registration desk, a machine scanned her face and documents. A voice spoke in perfect Korean, welcoming her to the academy. She collected her room assignment and a small device that would translate languages in real time. Her room was small but comfortable. A bed, a desk, a window that showed the stars. She sat on the bed and let herself breathe. She was really here. She was really doing this. A knock came at her door. When she opened it, a young woman with short black hair stood there, smiling wide. "You must be my roommate," the woman said. "I am Bora Han, from Bizen. You?" "Una Park, from Gangwon Province." Bora stepped inside without waiting for an invitation. She looked around the room and nodded. "Not bad. I heard the Pell trainees have to share rooms with 5 others. Their species likes crowds." Una smiled. She liked Bora already. The woman talked fast and moved faster, filling the small space with energy. They spent the next hour unpacking and sharing stories. Bora had been a translator on Earth, working with the first Union diplomats. Una had been a wildlife researcher, studying bears in the mountains. Both had applied to the academy on the same day, not knowing each other existed. That evening, they walked together to the orientation hall. Hundreds of trainees filled the space, representing at least 30 different species. Una felt very small. A figure rose to the stage. It was one of the tall, pale creatures she had seen earlier. "Instructor Veln," the announcement said. "Head of Integration Training." Veln spoke slowly, and the translator device in Una's ear converted the sounds into words she could understand. The instructor explained the academy's purpose. They would learn to work with other species. They would learn customs, languages, and laws. They would become bridges between worlds. Then Velm said something that made the room go quiet. "Some of you come from predator species. Some from prey. Some from neither. Here, those labels mean nothing. But outside these walls, they mean everything. You must learn to see past your instincts if you wish to serve the Union." Una noticed that Velm's gaze passed over the human group without stopping. To the instructor, they were not interesting. Humans were new. Humans were soft. Humans had no claws, no venom, no armor. In the eyes of the galaxy, they were barely worth noticing. After orientation, Una found herself standing alone near a window. She watched ships come and go from the station. So many worlds. So many beings. And humans were just starting to find their place among them. A voice spoke beside her. First day thoughts? She turned. A man stood there, older than her by a few years. His face was calm, his posture relaxed. He wore the uniform of a senior officer. "Taiho Kim," he said. "I graduated 2 cycles ago. They asked me to help the new human trainees settle in." Yuna introduced herself. She asked him what it was like, being human in a place like this. Taiho was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "The hardest part is not the coursework. It is earning respect. Most species here see us as prey-shaped, small, weak. They do not fear us, and they do not expect much from us. How do we change that? One moment at a time. One choice at a time." He looked at her closely. "What did you do on Earth?" "I studied bears. Lived near them. Tracked them through the mountains." Something changed in his expression. A small smile. "That might help you more than you know." Before she could ask what he meant, a commotion broke out near the main entrance. Trainees stepped back, pressing against walls. A group had entered the station. They were tall, nearly 8 feet, covered in dark fur that seemed to eat the light. They walked upright, but moved like wolves. Their eyes faced forward, the eyes of hunters. Yuna felt her pulse quicken. She knew what they were from her studies. Karth, apex predators, one of the most feared species in the Union. And walking beside the adults, barely reaching their waists, were 3 cubs. Bora appeared at Yuna's side, gripping her arm. "They brought children," she whispered. Taiho's voice was steady. "The cubs are here for socialization. The academy believes early exposure reduces conflict later." He paused. "But even instructors keep their distance during integration exercises." Yuna watched the smallest cub. It moved differently from the adults. Curious. Testing. Its eyes scanned the crowd, looking for weakness. And for just a moment, those eyes met hers. 3 days passed. Yuna fell into the rhythm of academy life. Morning classes on galactic law. Afternoon sessions on species customs. Evening study with Bora in their small room. The work was hard, but not impossible. She had always been good at learning, but everywhere she went, she heard whispers about the Korath. The predator species had been given a separate wing of the station. Most trainees avoided that corridor entirely. Even the instructors seemed nervous when discussing the integration schedule. The Korath were allies of the Union, important partners in trade and defense. But they were also killers by nature. Their entire culture was built on the hunt. Yuna learned more from Taiho during their evening walks. He told her that the Korath did not think like other species. They did not see the galaxy as a place of equals. To them, there were only 2 types of beings: pack and prey. "How do you become pack?" Yuna asked. "You prove you are not prey," Taiho said. "But that is harder than it sounds. Their instincts are strong. If you show fear, if you submit, they will mark you as lesser forever. There is no second chance." Yuna thought about this. On Earth, she had worked with wild bears. She knew how predators tested boundaries. A bear would bluff charge to see if you would run. If you ran, you became something to chase. If you stood your ground, the bear often lost interest and walked away. She wondered if the Korath were the same. On the 4th day, the academy held an integration mixer. All trainees were required to attend. The purpose was simple: meet other species, learn their greetings, practice being uncomfortable. Yuna dressed in her formal uniform and walked with Bora to the common hall. The space was huge, filled with tables of strange food and groups of aliens making careful conversation. Music played from somewhere, though it sounded more like wind through pipes than any melody she knew. Bora immediately found the food tables. Yuna smiled and let her go. She preferred to watch first. She found a spot near the wall where she could see the whole room. She studied body language. A species with long necks bowed deeply when meeting others. A group of rock-skinned beings touched foreheads in greeting. The small pale creatures she had seen before avoided eye contact entirely, looking at the ground when speaking. Each species had rules, signals, ways to show respect or challenge. Yuna memorized what she could. Then the main doors opened, and the room changed. Overseer Thal entered first. He was the largest Korath Yuna had seen, his shoulders nearly scraping the doorframe. His fur was darker than the others, almost black, and old scars marked his muzzle. Behind him came 6 adult Korath, moving in perfect formation. And behind them, the 3 cubs. Conversation stopped. Movement stopped. Even the strange music seemed to fade. Yuna watched the reaction spread through the room. Trainees of all species stepped back. Some pressed against walls. A few near the doors quietly slipped out. This was not panic. This was something older. Prey animals recognizing a predator had entered the space. The Korath walked to the center of the room and stopped. Overseer Thal said something in his own language, a series of growls and clicks. The translator in Yuna's ear converted it a moment later. "We are here as friends. The Union asked us to teach our young about other species. We asked the same in return." His voice was deep and rough, like stones grinding together. Yuna noticed he did not say they came in peace. Korath did not speak of peace. They spoke of purpose. Slowly, conversation resumed. But the energy of the room had changed. Everyone was aware of the predators now. Everyone was calculating distance, measuring exits. Yuna kept watching. The cubs broke from the group. They were young, but they were not stupid. Even at this age, they knew how to test other beings. They wandered between groups, sniffing, staring, waiting for reactions. The smallest cub was the boldest. Yuna recognized him from the first night. He moved away from the others, exploring on his own. When he approached a group of Pell trainees, they scattered like leaves in wind. The cub's ears perked up. He had found something fun. He tried again with a tall, thin species Yuna did not recognize. They froze in place, trembling. The cubs circled them slowly, enjoying their fear. An instructor moved to intervene, but Overseer Thal raised one massive hand. The instructor stopped. This was part of the learning, his gesture said. The cubs needed to understand how prey behaved. Yuna felt something cold settle in her stomach. She did not like this. The cub was not evil. He was doing what his nature told him to do. But watching him terrify others made her feel sick. Taiho appeared beside her. "His name is Ren," he said quietly. "The Overseer's youngest son. He is 4 cycles old. In human terms, maybe 8 or 9 years. He is enjoying this," Yuna said. "He is learning," Taiho corrected. "Learning who is strong and who is weak. It is how Korath children understand their world." Ren finished circling the frozen alien and moved on. His eyes scanned the room, looking for new targets. And then he saw the humans. The small group of human trainees stood near the food tables. Laura was among them, holding a plate she had forgotten to eat. They were talking nervously, trying to act normal. But Yuna could see the tension in their shoulders. Ren's head tilted. New species. New test. He began walking toward them. Yuna straightened. She did not think about what she was doing. Her feet simply moved, carrying her across the room. She reached the human group just as Ren arrived. Bora grabbed her arm. "What are you doing?" she whispered. Yuna did not answer. She was watching the cub. Ren looked at the humans one by one. Some looked away. Some tried to smile. Bora's hand shook on Yuna's arm. Then the cub's eyes found Yuna. She did not look away. She did not smile. She simply looked back at him, calm and steady. The way she had looked at bears in the mountains of home. Ren's eyes narrowed. He took a step closer. The room seemed to hold its breath. The next morning came too quickly. Yuna had not slept well. Her dreams were filled with dark fur and sharp teeth. But when her alarm rang, she forced herself out of bed and into her training uniform. Bora was already awake, sitting on her bed with her knees pulled to her chest. "I cannot stop thinking about last night," Bora said. "The way that Cub looked at us. Like we were food." Yuna tied her boots. "He is a child. He does not know better yet. That makes it worse. If children are like that, what are the adults like?" Yuna did not have an answer. She finished dressing and headed to the training courtyard. The courtyard was an open space in the center of the academy. High walls surrounded it, and the ceiling was a dome of clear glass that showed the stars. Today's exercise was navigation. Trainees would be paired across species lines and given maps to follow through a maze. Instructor Velm stood at the entrance, assigning partners. Yuna was paired with a pal named Ollie. The small creature had 4 arms, soft gray fur, and eyes that never stopped moving. When Yuna introduced herself, Ollie flinched. "You are human," Ollie said. The translator made the voice sound nervous. "I have heard of your species. You eat meat." Yuna crouched down to Ollie's level. "I will not eat you," she said gently. "I promise." Ollie did not look convinced. But when the exercise began, the little pal followed Yuna into the maze. They worked well together. Ollie was good with maps, and Yuna was good at remembering paths. They moved through the corridors quickly, passing checkpoints and collecting markers. For a while, Yuna forgot about the Korath. She was simply focused on the task. Then she heard the screaming dot. It came from somewhere ahead, high-pitched and terrified. Yuna broke into a run before she realized what she was doing. Ollie called after her but could not keep up. She turned a corner and stopped. Ren stood in the middle of the corridor. The cub had escaped from wherever he was supposed to be. His fur was raised, his ears forward. In front of him, pressed against the wall, was a pair of trainees. They were shaking so badly, Yuna could hear their teeth clicking. Other trainees gathered at the edges of the corridor. No one moved to help. No one knew what to do. Yuna understood. If they approached, they might trigger the cub's hunting instinct. But if they did nothing, the terrified trainees might break and run. And running from a Korath was the worst possible choice. Instructor Velm appeared at the far end of the corridor. The tall Morath froze when she saw the scene. Her 6 arms spread wide, a gesture of uncertainty. Even she did not know how to handle this. Behind Velm, Overseer Thal pushed through the crowd. His massive form blocked the light. He saw his son and stopped. His eyes moved from the cub to the frightened trainees to the watching crowd. He did not move to collect Ren. He was waiting, watching, testing. Yuna felt her blood turn cold. She understood what was happening. Thal wanted to see how other species handled his child. This was a lesson for everyone. The Korath were showing the galaxy what they were. Ren snarled at the trapped trainees, a low rumbling sound that echoed off the walls. One of them whimpered. The other closed their eyes. Oli caught up to Yuna and immediately hid behind her legs. The small pal was shaking. Ren's head turned. His nose twitched. New scent. New prey. He looked at Yu and Ada. She felt the weight of his gaze. Those yellow eyes so bright and hungry. He was a child, yes, but he was also a predator. His instincts were older than thought, older than language. He saw her standing tall, and something in his brain marked her as a challenge. He left the trapped trainees and walked toward Yuna. Ollie pressed harder against her legs. "Please," the pal whispered. "Please do not move. Do not make him angry." Yuna did not move, but she did not look away either. Ren stopped 2 meters from her. He was already the size of a large dog, and he would grow much bigger. His claws clicked on the metal floor. His teeth, when he opened his mouth, were white and sharp like needles. He snarled. The sound was not like anything on Earth. It was deeper, rougher, designed by evolution to freeze prey in place. Yuna felt her muscles lock. Her body wanted to run. Every cell screamed at her to flee. She did not. Ren snarled louder. His hackles rose, making him look even bigger. Drool dripped from his jaws. His eyes never left hers. The corridor was silent. No one breathed. Instructor Velm stood frozen. Overseer Thaw watched with an expression Yuna could not read. Yuna thought of the mountains. She thought of the first time she had met a bear on a trail. She had been 20 years old, alone, carrying only a backpack. The bear had been huge brown, standing on its back legs. It had roared at her that she had not run. Her grandfather had taught her better than that. She had stood her ground, made herself big, and roared back. The bear had walked away. Ren was not a bear. He was something far more dangerous. But in that moment, Yuna realized something important. Fear was a feeling, not a command. Her body could scream at her to run, and she could choose to ignore it. She smiled. It was not a polite smile. It was the full expression, with teeth showing. In human culture, it meant happiness. In predator culture, it meant something else entirely. Ren's snarl faltered. His ears twitched. Yuna spoke. Her voice was calm and clear. "Nice try." The cub blinked. His snarl died. He had expected fear. He had expected submission. He had expected running. He had not expected this. For a long moment, nothing happened. Ren stared at Yuna. Yuna stared back. The corridor waited. Then Ren sat down. His head tilted. His ears relaxed. He was not scared, but he was confused. His entire life, every creature had reacted the same way to his display. This small, furless being had broken the pattern. He did not know what to do next. Overseer Thal stepped forward. His footsteps were the only sound in the corridor. He reached his son and placed one massive hand on the cub's head. "Interesting," he said, and his voice was very, very quiet. He looked at Yuna with those ancient predator eyes. And for the first time since arriving at the station, Yuna saw a Karath smile. The council chamber was cold. Yuna sat alone at a small table in the center of the room, while figures from a dozen species looked down at her from raised seats. She felt like a specimen under glass. Instructor Velm spoke first. "You endangered yourself and others. You provoked a Karath cub. You showed your teeth in a direct challenge. These are serious violations of integration protocol." Yuna kept her hands flat on the table. "I did not provoke him. He approached me. You should have submitted." The proper response to a Karath dominance display is to lower your eyes and make yourself small. Every trainee learns this in the first week. "With respect," Yuna said, "I do not think that would have helped." A murmur went through the council. A creature with scales and no visible eyes leaned forward. "Explain your reasoning, human." Yuna took a breath. The cub was testing boundaries. He had already frightened 2 trainees who submitted. Their fear made him excited. "If I had done the same, I would have just become another target. So you chose to challenge him instead?" Instructor Velm's voice was sharp. "Do you understand what a Karath cub can do? Their bite force can crush bone. Their claws can cut through metal. You are soft flesh and thin skin. I know what they can do, but I also know how predators think." The chamber fell silent. Overseer Thal, who had been sitting motionless in the highest seat, finally moved. He leaned forward and his eyes caught the light. "Let her speak," he said. Instructor Velm looked like she wanted to argue, but she closed her mouth and sat back. Yuna stood. She was small in this room of giants and elders, but she made herself stand straight. On Earth, she began, humans are not the biggest or the strongest. We have no claws, no fangs, no armor. For most of our history, we lived alongside predators who could kill us easily. Bears, lions, wolves, great cats that hunted us in the night. She paused, remembering her grandfather's stories. The old man had grown up in the mountains in a time before cities pushed the wild things away. We learned something important. Running makes you prey. Fear is a signal that predators can read. When they smell it, they know you are weak. They know you will break. So you felt no fear? One council member asked. No, I was afraid. Very afraid. Yuna met the questioner's eyes. But fear is not the same as surrender. My body wanted to run. My hands wanted to shake. But I chose to stay still. I chose to meet his eyes. Humans can do this. We can feel terror and still stand our ground. The chamber was quiet. Some council members exchanged glances. Others studied Yuna with new interest. Taeho stepped forward from the side of the room. Yuna had not seen him enter. Permission to present evidence, he said. Instructor Veln waved her hand. Proceed. Taeho activated a display screen. Images appeared. Earth, mountains, forests, and humans standing beside animals that could kill them with one blow. This is human history, Taeho said. For tens of thousands of years, humans did not run from predators. They faced them. Sometimes they lost. But often enough, the predators backed down. Not because humans were stronger. Because humans were unpredictable. He showed more images. Ancient cave paintings of humans hunting mammoths. Photographs of researchers standing near wild bears. Video of farmers chasing lions away from livestock with nothing but noise and courage. Human fear response is unusual among known species. Most beings have what we call automatic submission. When they face a superior predator, their bodies take over. They cannot choose to resist. The fear controls them. He looked at the council. Humans are different. Our fear is strong, but it does not command us. We can feel it and ignore it. We can be terrified and still act with calm. This is not bravery in the way you might understand it. It is something stranger. A disconnect between feeling and action. Overseer Thal spoke. You are saying humans can override their instincts. Yes, not always. Not perfectly, but often enough to matter. The Korath leader was silent for a long moment. His eyes never left Yuna. In my culture, he finally said, there is a word for beings who do not break under pressure. We call them worthy. It does not mean friend. It does not mean equal. But it means we do not see them as prey. He stood. His massive form blocked the lights above. This human did not challenge my son. She refused to submit. These are different things. Among my people, refusal to submit is not an insult. It is a statement. She was saying, I am not food. I am not prey. I am something else. He looked at Instructor Veln. You cannot punish her for being what she is. The chamber erupted in whispers. This was unprecedented. A Korath defending an outsider. A predator speaking for prey. Instructor Veln raised her hands for silence. When the room was quiet, she looked at Yuna. What do you have to say for yourself? Yuna thought carefully. Then she spoke. I did not plan what happened. I just reacted. Where I come from, we learn young that you do not run from predators. You stand tall. You make noise. You show them that hunting you is not worth the trouble. She paused. I grew up in the mountains of Korea. Wild boars came near our village. Sometimes bears. My grandfather taught me how to face them. And if the cub had attacked you, Yuna was quiet for a moment. Then I would have fought. I would have lost, but I would not have run. Overseer Thal made a sound. It took Yuna a moment to realize he was laughing. I like this one, he said. She speaks like a Korath. The council debated for another hour. In the end, they decided not to punish Yuna. Her actions had not followed protocol, but they had not caused harm. More importantly, they had revealed something about humans that the galaxy had not understood before. Humans were soft. Humans were weak. But humans did not break Dot as Yuna left the chamber. Taiho walked beside her. You did well, he said. I was lucky. Maybe, but luck favors those who do not run. Behind them, Overseer Thal watched from the doorway. His eyes were thoughtful. This small species from a small planet had surprised him. He wondered what other surprises they might have. 6 months passed like water through fingers. Yuna threw herself into her training. She learned the customs of 40 species. She studied languages until her head ached. She practiced diplomacy until she could speak carefully, even when angry. The work was hard, but she had always been good at hard work. But the real change was not in her studies. It was in the small things. Other trainees started sitting near her in the dining hall. Species that had never spoken to humans began asking questions. What is Earth like? How do humans raise their young? Why do you show your teeth when you are happy? She answered everything honestly. Earth was beautiful but damaged. Humans raised their children with love and fear and hope. Showing teeth was a smile, a sign of joy, though she understood why predators found it strange. The story of her encounter with Ren spread through the station. Then it spread to other stations. Ships carried the tale across trade routes. Humans, the soft newcomers, had produced someone who grinned at a Korath cub and said, "Nice try." Most species did not know what to make of it. Some thought she was crazy. Some thought she was brave. Some thought both were the same thing, but everyone agreed on one point. Humans were more interesting than they had seemed. Bora laughed about it constantly. You are famous now, she said one evening. The human who does not flinch. I heard a Morath trader talking about you last week. She said humans must have predator blood hidden somewhere. Yuna shook her head. Humans are not predators. No, you are something weirder. Bora grinned. You are prey that forgot how to be afraid. It was not entirely true. Yuna was still afraid of many things. She was afraid of failing. She was afraid of disappointing her family back on Earth. She was afraid of the vastness of space and how small she was within it. But she had learned that fear was a companion, not a master. It walked beside her. It did not control her steps. The strangest change was Ren. After the incident, the cub began following her. Not to threaten, not to test. He simply appeared wherever she was. In the corridors, in the courtyard, outside her classroom. He would sit and watch her with those bright yellow eyes. At first, Yuna was nervous. But Taiho explained what was happening. In Korath culture, you proved yourself. You are not prey to him anymore. He does not know what you are, so he's trying to figure it out. What should I do? Nothing. Let him watch. Let him learn. So Yuna did. And slowly, over weeks, the cub's behavior changed. He stopped following from a distance. He started walking beside her. He brought her things, strange objects from around the station. A piece of metal, a colored stone, a bone from some creature she did not recognize. Bora was horrified. He's bringing you dead things. Like a cat. I think it is a gift, Yuna said. Korath share food and trophies with pack members. You are not pack. You are human. Maybe he does not see the difference. The graduation ceremony came on a bright morning. The hall was filled with trainees from across the Union. Families had traveled from distant worlds to watch. Yuna's parents could not afford to journey, but they sent a message that played on her personal screen. They were proud. They missed her. They could not wait to see who she had become. Instructor Velen gave the opening speech. She talked about bridges between species. She talked about understanding and patience and the slow work of building trust. Then she said something that made the hall go quiet. This cycle, we had an unusual student. She taught us something we did not expect to learn. She showed us that courage is not the absence of fear. It is the choice to act despite fear. Yuna felt her face grow warm. More importantly, she showed us that we cannot judge species by their bodies alone. Soft flesh does not mean soft spirit. Small frames do not mean small hearts. After the ceremony, Overseer Thal approached Yuna. He moved through the crowd like a ship through water. Other beings stepped aside without being asked. "I have a request," he said. Yuna stood straight. "Yes? My people need a liaison with the Union, someone who understands us, someone we can respect." His eyes were steady. "I want you." The offer hung in the air. Permanent liaison to the Korath delegation. It was a position of immense importance. It was also a position of immense danger. Living among predators, day after day, year after year. "Why me?" Yuna asked. "Because you do not break. Because my son follows you like a shadow. Because when you grinned at him that day, I saw something I had not seen in 1,000 years." "What did you see?" Thal was quiet for a moment. "Another predator. Not in body. In spirit." Yuna thought about her grandfather in the mountains. She thought about bears and boars and the long nights when wild things came close to the village. She thought about the choice she had made, again and again, to stand instead of run. "I accept," she said. Thal nodded. Something that might have been approval crossed his scarred face. Bora found her later, near the windows that looked out at the stars. "So," Bora said, "you are going to live with murder wolves. They are not wolves, and they do not murder." Yuna paused. "Usually." Bora laughed. "Promise me you will visit. I promise." They stood together in silence. Ships moved past the station, carrying beings to worlds beyond counting. The galaxy was vast and strange and full of wonders. Yuna thought about how she had arrived at this place. A small woman from a small village on a small planet. She had no claws, no fangs, no armor. She was soft and breakable and afraid. But she had learned the secret that her grandfather knew. The secret that humans had carried for thousands of years. Fear was a feeling. Action was a choice. And sometimes, the bravest thing you could do was smile at the monster and say 2 simple words. Ren appeared beside her, pressing his furry head against her hip. He was nearly waist-high now and still growing. In a few years, he would tower over her like his father. She scratched behind his ears. He made a rumbling sound that might have been a purr. "Nice try," she whispered. The cub's tail wagged. Behind her, in the halls of the station, beings of 40 species whispered about the humans. The soft ones. The weak ones. The ones who had looked at the galaxy's fiercest predators and decided they were not impressed. The story was just beginning.